Hi guys, so this is a very quick reaction video. I just finished watching the Jesse Waters interview with Erika Kirk, and I know that you guys were asking me about a reaction, and I just wanted to give it to you while it was still fresh in my mind, and it's not fancy, but here we go. So as predicted, most of the questions, at least for the first, I don't know, let me see, 20 minutes or so are just softball questions about how they met or about their marriage or the kids and everything else. And again, and maybe I'm wrong, but I just cannot watch her with all these pats. The whole thing was like this, the whole thing. Maybe Erika, and I hate to sound like such a, but maybe just wear less makeup. And that way you don't have to worry about whatever's running down. If you know that you're gonna cry, because obviously you should, then why would you wear all that makeup? And I'm sorry, but I'm just gonna say, I can't get, what is up with all those rings? Like, what is up with all of those rings? I can't, it's very distracting. And to be quite honest, I went in there with very open to hear and just try to be as unbiased as possible, but she made it really hard. Okay, so the first couple questions were just all softballs. What I did notice was that in the beginning, she kept saying things like, we have the same values, meaning her and Charlie. We have the same this, we have the same that. I think that means that she's been coached because she knows that he's gone. She knows that it would have been to say like, oh, Charlie and I always had. But the fact that she kept saying we have, I was like, somebody coached her. Somebody coached her because this is what people who grieve do, right? They forget that that person is no longer there. And that is the feeling that I got from it. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think so. Anyways, moving on. So the question about their marriage. Okay, something she said, I forgot what time it was, but it was in the beginning. She said something about something that Charlie would do on the Sabbath, that he would put his phone away. On the Sabbath, okay, the Sabbath for Christians is Sunday, not Saturday. And I felt like that was just her trying to push this narrative of and that he would say Shabbat Shalom and put it away. And I was like, what? He wasn't Jewish. And I just felt like that was like a call, you know, she was trying to give out like a dog whistle. Like, you see, he was still really all about Israel. So you guys, and I wasn't buying it, me myself. That was very confusing to me because it's something that comes up later, and I'm gonna get to it. What's up with the rings? The dry eye pats, of course. She said, protect what you love. I think that's gonna come back to her. A lot of crying for the camera. I'm not saying that none of it was real. I think that there were some parts where I was like, yeah, that's real right there. Something's going on in her head and she's really crying now, but most of the time it was just, to me, it felt performative. They said that her mom had a health issue and that's why she wasn't with Charlie. I don't know, did she? Now, finally, at 8:25, we get to the Mikey call. And she said that Mikey called her within seconds. But Candace brought up a very interesting question today, which was, what did he do? Just call you and say, hey, Charlie got shot, get the security, and then hang up? Like, if you're breaking that news to someone, that is massive traumatic news. Wouldn't you take the time to actually, like, Erika, are you okay? Where are you? Look, I'm sorry, Charlie got shot. I don't know what's going on. Where are the kids? Get security. You wouldn't just hang up on her in 2 seconds. And I think to cover that, because I'm sure that there's been some talk about what's going on the internet, she said, I immediately went outside and fell out on the parking lot of the clinic where my mother was. So maybe that's gonna be the story, right? That's why Mikey hung up with her so quickly, because she let the phone go. I can see that this is where it's going, so just mark my words. I can't get over these rings. What does MG mean? What is up with all this jewelry? I don't get it. And then she talks about when she went to go see Charlie's body in the hospital. And she said that when she walked in there, he had a smirk on his face. A smirk on his face. Now, I would imagine that meant that he died peacefully, right? He died in peace. And she did say that. She said, oh, that was a sign to me that he had died in peace. He died doing what he loves. But then she plugs TPUSA. And I was like, girl, are you seriously going to do this? She said, it was as if he was saying, you thought you could stop what I built? What? What? For him to die with a smile on his face, fine, yes, he was at peace, I agree with that. But I don't think he was thinking about TPUSA. And it's interesting that you would include that in there. And I'm wondering who told her that that would be a good idea, because I don't think it plays. I think that's a massive red flag. Like, why would she even mention, oh, you thought you could stop me? You took my body, but you can't stop my movement. Like, I don't think that that's what he would have been thinking. And the fact that she said it, it just raises a red flag for me. I don't know. Moving on. Something she said at 8:33, she said, I don't believe in coincidences. That is going to come back to her. She's going to regret she ever said that. I guarantee you, mark my words, something's going to happen and it's going to be like, oh, it was a coincidence. And then these words are going to come back to haunt her. I don't believe in coincidences. Just keep that in mind. He asked her, Jesse Water asked her, do you think that they caught your husband's killer? She went around in a circle and eventually just landed on, I trust our team. So no, yes, no, I trust our team. That's it. I insulated myself by getting, she said that she let her phone, she wasn't paying attention to anything. She had to insulate herself. But then I'm like, how did you insulate yourself? You were on TV and on the internet and doing podcasts within a week. What do you mean you were insulating yourself? No, you weren't. What is that? And then she said at 8:34, she said there are a lot of fake images out there. Okay. Then he asks her, do you feel safe? This is pivotal because I was like, my God, this woman's husband gets assassinated and she just goes up and goes everywhere and she doesn't feel anything. That's telling. And she said, I do. Clearly, she said, I do feel safe. 8:36, she plugs TPUSA again. 8:39, we have an organization to run. Again with the plugging in of TPUSA. This is not the time to talk about that. I don't understand why she who told her that this was going to be a good idea? I have no clue. That person should get fired because this is not playing well. It just isn't. She shouldn't have talked about TPUSA at all unless Jesse Waters would have had the spine to ask her, Charlie was auditing TPUSA. Are you continuing that audit? He didn't ask her that. So she should have mentioned it. Tyler Robinson. So they were saying that Tyler Robinson's trial is coming up in January and that the defense doesn't want cameras allowed in the courtroom. And so Jesse Waters asks her, how do you feel about that? And she said, there have been cameras all over me, all over her family, all over their friends who are grieving. So it's only fair that there are cameras in the courtroom. First of all, I believe there should be cameras in the courtroom, but it's not because Erika's been on camera. Erika put herself on camera. Erika has repeatedly put herself in front of the camera. And when she was actually with Charlie's body, as we all sadly had to see her, that intimate moment of her with Charlie together, she even had cameras and a mic, of all things, recording that very intimate moment of between her and her husband who was assassinated. And she had cameras and mics on that. So what do you mean that, of course, cameras have been on me. They should be in the courtroom. Yeah, they should be in the courtroom, but not because you put yourself in front of those cameras, lady. You chose to record all of that, which later on she says, well, I have nothing to hide. And I want everyone to see everything because I have nothing to hide. What? Make up your mind. Is it that it's like people are infringing on your privacy, or that you want to show everything? Make up your mind. Okay, then she goes into talking about how Charlie's in heaven and Charlie's with Christ and Charlie's looking down and Charlie sees the big picture. And in her opinion, she says that if God gave Charlie the opportunity to come back to earth, that even though she says that doesn't never happen, but if he had gotten that opportunity, that in her opinion, he would have said no. because he would have seen, if this is what your death is going to be, if God had told him this is what your death is going to be the catalyst for, Charlie would have chosen to stay in heaven. And that to me was another plug for TPUSA, because now she's tying Charlie's death to, oh, if you really feel that was a horrible thing, which we all do, whether or not I think we're Christians or just Americans across the board, pretty much, right? If you think that was a terrible thing to do, then prove it. Prove it by joining TPUSA. Prove it by working for TPUSA, because this is what Charlie would have wanted more than anything. And even if he had the chance to come back to Earth, to be with me, his wife, and to be with his children, he wouldn't, as long as TPUSA can grow. You guys, oh my God, I know I'm super judgmental, but it just felt so fake. So fake. And all these TPUSA plugs was driving me up the wall. Let me see what else. Okay. Jesse Waters, like I said, he could have asked her a lot of questions about TPUSA, since that's what she wanted to talk about. And real questions like, what happened to the audits? Did you keep the audits there? How did you get to CEO status? Listen, this woman doesn't seem very bright to me. Okay. I don't understand how she got immediately and placed into CEO status. Like she wasn't even part of it. I mean, she was part of it in the fringe, right? But it was all Charlie. And she even said during the whole interview, like how Charlie was away so many days, so many hours, and sometimes he wasn't even home, and she was fully supportive, and she didn't feel threatened because he included her in a lot of the things that he did. But he included her. She wasn't part of it. So how is she suddenly the CEO? I just it's the optics, right? They're just using the optics because, of course, that's just going to make everyone like, oh, it's going to be this hero story. And so now, people are going to be more, it's gross. I think it's gross. Now, the end of the interview goes into when she has that whole thing with JD Vance and the TPUSA at Ole Miss and whatever. Funny, because they're talking backstage and he's, saying, oh, and Charlie, and she's saying, yeah, I know you feel him too. And he's like, yeah, I do. And God bless you. And then they show the part where she goes up on stage and she's talking to the crowd of kids, because they're all really super young. And then they show the part where JD Vance comes out and they hug, but the part where she grabs his head, they cut that part out, which was a smart move. And I'm sure that happened after the internet had so much to say about it. Then what else? So after the Ole Miss thing, right? She's in the car and she's talking to her assistant or whatever, and she's saying, "Oh my God, it was amazing! Like I never even really understood how much it takes out of you to do these events. After last night, now I understand, and oh my goodness." And then she shows Charlie's cross, and it has a medal on it. Now I'm a Catholic. For us, it's really like a lot of Catholics wear medals of St. Lazarus, medals of St. Michael, medals of St. Jude, medals of the Virgin Mary. That's common for us. But I had to look it up. I've never, like an evangelical, I thought they were like on a different plane where you don't do that and everybody's a saint. So I had to look that up. But she says, so Charlie I always asked him, like, why don't you wear a cross? And he said, well, I'm not a jewelry guy. So I got him this cross. And, through the years, I got him medals. And he really loved St. Michael. So I got him a St. Michael medal. What? Aren't you evangelical? Aren't you evangelical? Like, why would you get a St. Michael medal? So I had to look it up. And according to Google, no, evangelicals don't believe in praying or venerating saints. Everybody's a saint to an evangelical. Everybody who follows God's word is a saint. So that was to me, this goes back to what Candace was saying earlier about how Charlie was like, oh, we don't venerate the Virgin Mary enough, and we don't, this and that, and how Candace was like, just take the leap, you're almost there, you might as well just cross over, because he's wearing medals. But then it's confusing because in the beginning, she's like, oh, he's practically Jewish because he's like, oh, Shabbat Shalom at Saturdays. So I don't know, you guys, none of this makes sense. I'm not buying it. I do believe that some of the tears were real, and I do think she has a lot to cry about. So that doesn't surprise me. But I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it. I didn't expect Jesse Waters to ask her any hard questions, but I would have appreciated it if he had asked her at least a harder question. Since she kept talking about TPUSA, he could have asked her like, what are your plans, or what were Charlie's plans, or are you fully, I know that before he died, he was doing an audit of TPUSA. Are you going to continue that since you're continuing his legacy? Are you going to continue that? But they're friends. They're friends. So what really, why would I even expect that? I don't know. I'm not buying it. It is what it is, but these are some nuggets. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I hope you guys get a chance to see the interview for yourself if you haven't already, because yeah, I left with a lot more questions than I started with. So, and while I'm trying to upload this video, I'm watching the Fox News channel with the reaction, and Colvett says he has deep respect for Erika more than ever for the way that she's carried herself. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? And then, of course, Mikey McCoy pipes up and says that Erika Kirk is, quote, the best that humanity has to offer. Oh my God, I hope not. I hope if that's the best we have, we're cooked. We're definitely cooked. The amount of ass kissing is just off the chain, and it's ridiculous. I'm not buying any of this. This is all ridiculous. It's all a show. TPUSA, I don't think is gonna survive any of this, because with this circus, like, I can't imagine that this is gonna last very long. But anyways, you guys, thanks for watching. You asked me for a reaction video. There you have it, and I'll see you on the next vid.